Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja 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 Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish C
Hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Paimon, hail Baphomet, hail thyself. We reject the Trinity, we reject the baptism of John, we reject the baptism of the Spirit. Welcome everybody. How's it going? Two pondering pagans, how's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today is going to be an interesting conversation, something I've been kind of thinking on regarding kind of like balance and working with the infernals, working with the demonic, how the demonic generally functions, and the left-hand path. And all of this ties into the very short chapter that we're going to be reading today in the Satanic Bible, which is, the God you save may be yourself. So there's certain aspects of this that I technically... Can we just appreciate for a second that my keyboard reflecting on the book kind of looks like it's a keyboard of candles? Like it looks like candlelight. I just think that that's kind of cool. Anyway, so there's aspects of this that I disagree with, because this kind of just completely destroys, the previous statement that he made about, whether you are a theistic or an atheistic individual, then it doesn't really matter. Just believe in something, right? But this, I think that there's something deeper to this that needs to be kind of brought forth, right? Rook, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. So let us begin. All religions of a spiritual nature are inventions of man. He has created an entire system of gods with nothing more than his carnal brain. Just because he has an ego and cannot accept it, he has had to externalize it into some great spiritual device which he calls God. God can do all the things man is forbidden to do, such as kill people, perform miracles to gratify his will, control without any apparent responsibility, etc. If man needs such a God and recognizes that God, then he is worshiping an entity that a human being invented. Therefore, he is worshiping by proxy the man that invented God. Is it not more sensible to worship a God that he himself has created, in accordance with his own emotional needs, one that best represents the very carnal and physical being that has the idea, power to invent a God in the first place? So this is kind of a hit or miss statement, right? So he's very directly saying that he believes that in this particular chapter, that all gods are created by man, which to a certain degree may or may not be true. It's not to say that the gods that we worship and that we work with and the entities that we work with are not real, but there is quite a bit of externalization in an attempt to understand nature and the world around us in a lot of faiths throughout the world. Doesn't make them any less valid. It just is what it is. If man insists on externalizing his true self in the form of God, then why fear his true self in fearing God? Why praise his true self in praising God? Why remain externalized from God in order to engage in ritual and religious ceremony in his name? Man needs ritual and dogma, but no law states that an externalized God is necessary in order to engage in ritual and ceremony performed in a God's name. Could it be that when he closes the gap between himself and his God, he sees the demon of pride creeping forth, that very embodiment of Lucifer appearing in his mindset or in his midst. Sorry. He no longer can view himself in two parts, the carnal and the spiritual, but sees them merge as one, and then to his abysmal horror discovers that they're only the carnal and always were. Then he either hates himself to death day by day or rejoices that he is what he is. If he hates himself, he searches out new and more complex spiritual paths of enlightenment in hopes that he may split himself up again in his quest for stronger and more externalized gods to scourge his poor, miserable shell. If he accepts himself but recognizes that ritual and ceremony are the important devices that his invented religions have utilized to sustain his faith in a lie, then it is the same form of ritual that will sustain his faith in the truth, the primitive that will give his awareness of his own majestic being added substance. When all religious faith in lies has waned, it is because man has become closer to himself and farther from God, closer to the devil. If this is the devil represents, and a man lives his life in the devil's vein, with the signs of Satan moving his flesh, then he either escapes from the cracklings and carpings of the righteous or stands proudly in his secret places of the earth and manipulates the folly-ridden masses through his own satanic might until that day when he may come forth in splendor proclaiming, "I am a Satanist, bowed down, for I am the highest embodiment of human life." I love me some bubbles. Awesome, Seti. Awesome. Well, I am glad that I am your music. So this is a short chapter, and kind of like the one that I want to stop on today. So there's a big thing here. So I take this chapter as kind of understanding that in many right-hand path or monotheistic paths or kind of like Abrahamic paths, Judeo-Christian, the idea of God is to remove, and I've always said this, that I believe that Christianity and Catholicism is a lazy man's religion. It just is, right? If you want something to happen, you kneel at your bed, you pray, and you hope that it happens, and you remove all responsibility from yourself, all accountability from oneself. And that is the detriment in an Abrahamic path, in Judeo-Christianity, is the idea of no longer being accountable for you, yourself, and your actions, but saying that it is God's will, and if, God willing, this will happen. And no, that is not the case. And you're probably wondering why this particular episode is labeled Infernal Motivation. And this ties directly into your own personal godhood. Nothing like Balg. We're not going to go down that road. We're not become a living God in the literal sense, but rather in the metaphorical sense of being the one that is in charge of one's own destiny, the being in charge of one's own path. I do not believe in destiny or fate, because within destiny or fate, you are exiled to one end, right? Now, if you want to look at overall destiny, well, then all of us share the same overall destiny. And what is that? We are all destined to die, right? That is the one thing that you are absolutely, unequivocally guaranteed in your life, that you will one day die. That is everyone's destiny. That is the only destiny that exists for all of us, is your impending death. It is going to happen. How it happens, where it happens, when it happens, who the fuck knows? But it is what it is. Everything else that we do in our life, every other thing that we try to achieve is our responsibility. We need to be accountable for it. If you want to have a successful business, then it is your responsibility to do the actions necessary to have a successful business. If you want to be in shape, if you want to be fit, it is your responsibility to move your body and do these things. The Infernal will show us this much. If you think of how the Infernal works, when you open up yourself, for example, to Belial, working with Belial is a very aggressive spirit, right? And with, I should rather say demonic entity, right? It's not necessarily a spirit, but Belial is very aggressive in the way that Belial kind of pushes things forward when you request, certain things in your life. And one thing that generally happens with all of the infernal entities when you begin working with them is that they begin to immediately force a rip away of things that are holding you back. Now, these are things that you could have ripped away yourself, that you could have moved away from, right? But for one reason or another, you refused to see it, you couldn't see it, or, what have you. The Infernal comes in, and the Infernal removes these things from you, opening the path. But the left-hand path is accountability for oneself. The left-hand path is responsibility for oneself. The left-hand path is understanding your failures and your successes are you and you alone. And I'm one of those people that I very greatly stand by the idea that if you don't stop trying, you have not failed. You've only found one way that it doesn't work. Do it again, a different way. Don't quit. Keep moving forward. And this is what the Infernal tells us. This is what the idea of Lucifer lighting the path is. Lucifer lights the path. So you know where you're walking. You tell Lucifer, you say to Lucifer, Lucifer, this is the path that I want to walk on. This is the direction that I want to go. And then Lucifer will light that path. Baphomet will bring balance to that grind. Because at the end of the day, though our death is absolutely inevitable, the things that we wish to obtain in this life are important. And the Infernal understand that. Our reach and our influence to the things that we want to achieve in our life, however small, however grand, are important because it is our desire to do so. We try to convince ourselves and talk ourselves out of grandiose ideas because of what many people have told us. That it's not realistic, that you can't do that, that this, that, and the next thing. And I'm sure you guys have heard a list of negative tropes that people have thrown at others for wanting to achieve their dreams. And we all have dreams. We all have goals. We all have things that we want to achieve. That's a possibility. I mean, I'm sure on the other side of the universe, that's exactly what it is. Right? That's exactly what it is. On the other side of the universe. I don't even think that that's a theoretical concept. I think that that's reality. I think that if on the other side of the universe, however far that may be away, you are 100% correct. Every single one of us is already dead. Interesting. So every single one of us, we have dreams and we have things that we want to achieve. Places that we want to be. Want people to treat us a certain way. At the end of the day, Your progress is your responsibility. And now, this is how I'm going to put this. I like to use the physical body as an example because it is... Then time is marked as the beginning when death begins. Wow, we are getting deep on that one. I kind of like it. Go deeper. Understood why I existed and didn't want this life, so I destroyed it in the way that I could by making it my own. Exactly, and that's not even destroying it, right? I mean, I completely get what you're saying, and I respect it 100%, and I think that's a beautiful sentiment, but I think, you took the destruction of not wanting something and built it into something, built it into your own. Like, you lit your own path, you blazed the trail, right? All types of people are needed in this world. Right? We need not everyone is going to be a CEO. Not everyone is going to have a successful business. Not everyone is going to be Mr. Olympia. Not everyone is going to be Joe Rogan and have a super successful podcast or, whatever. But here's the thing. This is the biggest problem. We are measuring the level of success that we want to achieve by the success of others. That inherently is a problem. You can be inspired by Mr. Olympia. You can be inspired by Joe Rogan. You can be inspired by all of these people. Please be inspired. But do not compare. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday, who you were an hour ago. Because then when you take into that consideration, because you're looking at people that have already reached a level of success in a certain field or a certain area, and we look at these people and we say, okay, I want to reach that level of success in that particular area. I want to be that. And what do we say? I want to be the next Joe Rogan. Stop saying that. Because you're not Joe Rogan. I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm Adius. You're Lady Tessa. You're Seti the Red. Rook Tempest. Two Pondering Pagans. Be inspired. But don't compare yourself to people that have already reached a certain level of success that you can most definitely reach if that is your true desire, if that's your true point of happiness, if that's where you want to be. You could reach that level, but you are you. Don't compare yourself to others, because that's going to stop you from reaching that point, from growing to that point. And this is what the Infernal tries to teach us. The Infernal, in a very aggressive way, the left-hand path in a very aggressive way, tells you, take your life into your own hands. You are the architect of your future. And for most of us, the answer is right in front of our faces. For most of us, we could sit at the edge of our bed and ask ourselves a simple question: is what is it that I am doing that is stopping me from being this? And most of us are going to get a very direct answer from ourselves. We are going to understand what is limiting our own godhood, our own ability to truly be the architects of our future. And again, this is what the left-hand path teaches us: responsibility and accountability for oneself. We do not rely on the entities that we work with. We do not rely on God or Satan or Lucifer to do things for us. We ask for the path to be shown. Routine is a big thing. I talk about it a lot, and a lot of people like to try to ignore it. Routine is the biggest ritual that you're going to do in your life. I try to minimize social media. It breeds resentment and comparisons. I'm struggling with sobriety right now, but I tell myself, no, I'm in control. I create. Exactly, Seti. Exactly. You know, and struggle is not a bad thing. Struggle means you're fighting. Struggle means that you are in the battle. Struggle means that you are forcing yourself to cross over that line, to go to the next level. So I can congratulate you on the struggle, because that means you have not lost. You are fighting. And I congratulate you, and I am proud of you that you are fighting. I don't know if you guys can hear the music in the background. These people, every Sunday without fail, different times, but every Sunday without fail. It's going to get louder because they're coming from this side. There it is. You can hear it now. Let's just let these people pass by, shall we, before we continue on? Because it's going to get a lot louder. They're not celebrating anything. They're asking for money. So what they do, and this is a normal thing here in Mexico, is they will grab instruments and walk down random streets and knock on doors while they're playing the music and ask for, like, tips for playing the music. We're just waiting for it to finish so I can continue talking. All right. So they appear to be far enough away that they're no longer coming through the microphone. So, but, yeah, Seti, like I was saying, so we like to put like kind of like a negative connotation on the word struggling. And to say that when I'm struggling with something, that means, you know, I'm in a bad spot. And it very well could be. Like, a person could be in a bad spot while they're struggling with something. But at the end of the day, to say that you are struggling means that you are fighting. And that is the big thing that, like, I believe that that mentality could save a lot of people that are in a struggle. Because, yes, you are struggling. Yes, you could lose the battle any day, but you're still in that battle. You know, so it sounds like a bit of an assholic statement, Seti, for me to say that I congratulate you for struggling, but I'm being 100% honest based on that logic. I am proud of you that you are fighting to maintain your sobriety. I am proud of you that you are in that struggle and you haven't given in to that thing that you want to change. So just keep that fight going. And I know that fight's an everyday fight. So everything we do in life creates a certain level of conflict with the things that we are trying to achieve in our day-to-day lives. Everybody has a different level of thing that they're trying to do, a thing that they're trying to achieve. It could be getting a new car. It could be buying a house. It could be getting a computer. It could be getting a book that you want to get. It could be setting up a routine. And I always tell people the most important ritual that you are ever going to do in your life is your daily routine. And it's one of the things that, like, when it comes to the left-hand path, in my experience, a routine of ritual is extremely important. I try to maintain a routine in most things that I do in my life. Waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working out for an hour, taking a shower. There was a point where I was in so much depression. I was so depressed. I was so down on myself. And when I truly, truly wanted to get out of it, I had to put into my calendar everything that I wanted to do in the day. Not just set my alarm to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I actually had to put in, brush my teeth. I actually had to put in, take a shower. I actually had to put in, get dressed, use actual clothes. Stop wearing your fucking pajamas, right? Put your shoes on, right? Eat. I had to put all of these things into my calendar, my day planner on my phone. Each thing that I needed to do to take care of myself, I needed to put into my calendar in order to make sure that I did it. Because my mind would wander off into the things that I was slipping into, and I would find reasons and excuses to not do them. And at the end of the day, and this is going to hurt a lot of people, but it's going to come full circle. So I beg you to listen. Every reason you have for not doing the things that you want to do in your life, every reason you have for the reasons you have not achieved the things that you have achieved in your life are excuses. You are excusing yourself of your own responsibility, and this is left-hand path. You are excusing yourself, understanding. There's nothing wrong with giving yourself excuses while you're not doing something, but it is important to understand that it is an excuse. Progress takes many different forms. An attempt to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but you fall back asleep and you wake up at 7 is still progress. Why? Because you actually made the conscious attempt and effort to do so. You do not have to achieve a goal to be proud of yourself. And I think this is one thing that many people in this space ignore and forget about. We'd like to talk about achievements, what you're achieving. Putting yourself on the path and making those attempts to achieve the things that you want to achieve is an achievement. Let me say that again. If you set the goal to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, just a simple goal, that in and of itself is an achievement. Because you have put yourself in the mindset of this is what I want to do. That is an achievement. You set your alarm to wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That is an achievement. You took the next step to make sure that you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That alarm goes off and you open your eyes and you sit there for a second. And you're like, all right, I'm going to do this tomorrow. And you go back to sleep until 7. The fact that you opened your eyes at 5 o'clock when the alarm went off, that is an achievement. Yes, did you fail at the overall goal of actually getting up and start moving around in your day at 5 o'clock in the morning? Yes, but everything else you did before that was a success. And then you do it the next day until that day comes that you actually get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Exactly. Exactly, Tessa. That's exactly it. It's too easy for people to dismiss the small steps we take each day to achieve a goal. And we only obsess over the idea that we didn't achieve the main goal, but every little thing that we achieved in that process. And that is the left-hand path. That is left-hand path. That is the infernal motivation. The infernal want you to be responsible for yourself. Belial, Satan, Lilith, Lucifer, Paimon, Baphomet. They want you to be responsible for yourself. They want to provide you the balance and the lighting for the path that you choose to walk on. When we talked about the last chapter we just read today, here in the Satanic Bible, when we talked about this, that the God you save may be yourself. God, in this case, is an externalization of the things that we want to be able to do, the things that we want to achieve. That's what this is. That's what this is talking about. That's what this is. That's what this is bringing out there. We externalize everything that we want to be and we can't be, and we put it out there. We compare. Exactly. Means bad and good things. Exactly. Being responsible for yourself means being responsible for the things that you are not a fan of, and being responsible and accountable and proud of the things that you have achieved. 100%. It's not all negativity. But the biggest problem that we run into as human beings, and I still daily, I run into this, is getting out of that negative space. And that's what this is about. That's what I love about the left-hand path. Is if I want to get out of that negative space, sometimes we need to be there. That's fine. Sometimes we need to be there. But then there comes a moment where, you know what, we got to get the fuck out of this. We've got to move away. And the left-hand path and the demonic, fuck, man. They want you out of there, right? Like, cry your fucking tears, get the fuck up, and let's keep going. Because our heart might have stopped a second here for whatever the reason is. Whatever it is. Family member dies, you know, whatever. You know, you lose your job. You know, you broke your leg. You know, you got rejected by the person you asked out, whatever. There's a million different reasons why we're going to be in a bad spot. For everybody, it's different. We need to feel those emotions. We need to be there in that moment and be present in that. But we also need to understand that we are responsible for where we're at. And one thing that always helps me, like this is like my favorite thing to tell myself, right? Because I'm one of those people that I'm never satisfied, right? I always want more. And one of the things that I always tell myself that keeps me, I would like to say humble, is I am not happy with where I am. But I am grateful that I'm not where I was. I'm going to repeat that. I am not happy with where I am, but I am grateful that I'm not where I was. Oh, this is 100% true, but this is one of the things that I love about the left-hand path. It takes time to get to that point. Not everybody is going to be able to do that immediately. Like, if you're just starting out, like, that's not something you're going to want to admit to yourself, like if you're fucking something up, you know, or, you know, if you're being irresponsible with something, you're not going to want to, right? Nobody does. Nobody wants to say that they fuck up on something, you know? But, you know, if anything, with recent situations that have happened in my life, right? At the middle of last year, the brain cannot comprehend the negative. This meaning. It's that once the negative is exposed, it desists and is not in a negative space. Interesting. But one of the things that, and we talked about this publicly on the show on Apocrypha, and I'm not going to get into the story, but essentially it was, I said, I would never do this. And then Mystic had responded, but you did. And it is accepting that, though in my mind what I had done was not that thing that I would not do in the manner in which I envisioned it, it was for someone else. You're on mobile. It's all good, man. It's all good. I cherish with the left-hand path is taking responsibility for yourself, positive and negative. I find a certain freedom in... Exactly. I mean, understanding that you have control. And that's what the Sunday Black Mass is about. Obviously, we're talking about the Satanic Bible, and we're going through my interpretation of how I perceive the Satanic Bible. But the biggest thing here is this part of the left-hand path. Overall, right? We're not going to get this deep and this direct every show, every Sunday. But I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of put this, my internal philosophy for the left-hand path out there. Is that if you achieve something, congratulations, you achieved it. You are fucking amazing. You're a beast. You did a fucking awesome job. You should be proud. And taking accountability and responsibility for that achievement. And if you fail, also accepting that you failed, not trying to pawn that failure off onto somebody else. Because just like it's very easy for us to accept responsibility and accountability for our achievements, we very quickly forget to mention the people that were in that process that helped us achieve what we achieved. Whereas when something bad happens and we enter that negative space, it is very easy for us to mention every single person that had a hand in your failure. I think to a degree, I do. I think to a degree, it can be difficult to accept when things go well, especially if you're used to things not going well. So it might not be that we're not accepting that things are going well, because obviously we can feel that it's going well, but rather we're always going to be waiting for the other shoe to drop. And if we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, then we're truly never ever really living in that moment and accepting or admitting that something is going well for us, because we're waiting for, something else to happen that's going to dismantle it. So we push it away. We push it away because we don't want to admit that everything's okay right now. Right? And I think a lot more people do that than than I would like to admit. I think a lot more people do that than I would like to admit, right? I think not just people in the left-hand path, but I think everyone. I mean, Christians included, it doesn't matter what faith you are. I think that's just something that, we're all subject to is, we're all subject to not believing that we're worthy of our lives going well and being truly happy. I should say not truly happy, but overall happy, right? Overall happiness. Because I am one of those people that I do believe that life is just struggle, and happiness comes in small doses, right? I mean, you need to enjoy those moments that, you are in that moment to enjoy, right? You know, the time with your friends, a good cup of coffee, a great conversation, you know, all of these wonderful, beautiful things that happen day in and day out, you know, a nice sunny day, you know, these little things that make us happy. I don't believe that happiness is a perpetual state that we can live in, but it is something that we can experience day in and day out if we are able to live in the moment. And I think a lot of us are incapable of living in that moment. And because we're incapable of living in that moment, we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it's because we're looking forward, waiting for where things are going to go wrong, then we never actually really get to enjoy those moments where we could truly experience happiness at the level that we think other people live it. Hopefully that makes sense. No, 100%. I completely agree, Nocturne. So yeah, I completely agree. Mystic, I completely agree that it is harder at times to admit that something's goes well or that things are okay, because we're afraid it's just going to break. And I think, again, you know, in the left-hand path, you know, the left-hand path is on that. You know, it's about that. It's about that, the ability to finally kind of break out of those cycles, break out of those you know, those fear moments, and understand that you achieve something, and appreciate that you achieve something, and be able to live in that moment. It's not to say that things won't go wrong. Things inevitably will probably go wrong at some point. It just is what it is, you know. Sales might go down. Somebody might, you know, be interested in somebody else, and things happen. But being prepared for the horrible things that can happen is not inherently being incapable of enjoying the happiness that you have in one single moment. Welcome, Bren. So the left-hand path shows us that we need to be able to say, yes, I did this. Yes, I'm happy with this outcome. Right? And I personally don't believe in good choices and bad choices. I believe that there are learning opportunities and consequences. And in some learning opportunities, the consequences are consequences that are unfavorable to us, but perhaps favorable to others. And in other learning opportunities, the consequences are favorable to us. That is how I view decision making, right? Is because what could be beneficial to me may not be beneficial to somebody else. And if I make a decision that is not beneficial to somebody else, then that is a consequence that I have to deal with. Right. And it also increases the understanding of the magnitude of our decisions. Right. We make a decision for ourselves, which is extremely important. We should always be able to make those decisions. We need to be able to make decisions for ourselves and what is good for us. Right. Regardless of what happens to other people in the crossfire of that. But at the same time, it's also to understand that those decisions, those choices that you make, those consequences, you have consequences which may be favorable to you, but in the aftermath consequences of that choice may be unfavorable to others. And it's understanding, you know, that chain reaction, right? So when you understand that chain reaction in spirituality and in the world, the living world around us, when you understand that chain reaction of events that take place when you make a choice, right? It allows you to make better informed choices about where you want to be and what you want to do, right? So when you look at the world and you say, okay, this is the direction that I want to go, but if I want to go this direction, I'm going here now, but I want to go this way. So if I'm going here now, that means I need to make a bunch of choices that are going to realign me to go this way. But all of those choices have consequences, not just for you, but for everybody around you. So you have to take into consideration those consequences. How important is this from this? That's the important thing. If that is vitally important for you, then the chain reaction of consequences that take place in order to align you to this direction are acceptable casualties. Sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes, most of the time, a decision that we make may not have adverse consequences for other people. Sometimes it does. But understanding that, understanding how you're connected to everybody around you, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. Do you think following the laws set by the justice system is still a smart decision despite how corrupt it is? If it's irrelevant to the discussion, no need. You know what? I think that falls directly, because that falls into decision making. I do think that it is, not just a smart decision, but a vital decision, right? Because the laws set forth by the justice system, though constructed around, the biblical 10 commandments for the most part, are a vital way of existing and coexisting in society and the world that we live in. And these laws change like wherever you go. Like, I mean, there's some semblance of the same idea that exists across the board, but in many places it's very different. And people are corrupt. The system, I do not believe that a system can be corrupted. A system is merely a set of regulations and understandings, right? Even inside of a computer system, right? The computer system itself cannot be corrupted. The computer system was built to do a job, and it does that job. However, a file can be corrupted. And if that file is corrupted, it can shockwave through the whole system. The system itself inherently is not corrupted, but that file corruption can cause conflict and issues inside of the system. That does not necessarily mean that the system itself doesn't function the way that it should, but rather than that corrupted file is causing the problem and needs to either be reinstalled or completely removed. So that is like my idea on that. So the system itself is not corrupted, though there are corrupted elements inside of the system. The basis of that system is, I think, well instated. Hopefully that makes sense. So, yeah, I do believe in that follows right into like the decision making decisions for yourself and the consequences those decisions have, right? Like, so for example, if you're homeless and you're hungry and you go into a store and you steal from a store, right? You steal food. That store has insurance, which is going to cover the loss of product, right? So essentially what you're doing is what some would consider a victimless crime. So that decision to go in and go steal food in order to feed yourself is covered. The same token, you go the other route with it and you break into somebody's home that you know that's not there and they don't have a security system, and you steal their food and personal belongings and things like that. People also have insurance for things like that. They may or may not, right? We're pretty certain that most businesses are insured. We can't be 100% certain if a person is insured against a break-in. So why is it that we look at stealing from a store as a victimless crime, and we look at stealing from somebody's home as the same crime but with a victim, right? Well, because it's a direct target, right? So the corporation has a chain and, all of these types of things that are connected to it that don't directly bring you to like the person that's raking in all the money from the franchising and all of that. Breaking into somebody's home is directly targeting another person. And I look at laws and regulations and decision making very much the same way. If I don't want you doing something to me, I'm not going to do it to you. It's that simple. And this is something we've been taught since we were fucking kids. Right? This isn't left-hand path. This is just, do unto others as you want done unto you. Make off a topic. Would you Would you enchant for an ultimate outcome or do multiple enchantments for each of the major steps towards? I would do multiple enchantments for each step. So the reason I would go multiple is the same reason we were talking about success and progress in something that you want to do, right? So the getting up early thing, right? Making the decision that you want to get up early. Setting the alarm. Going to sleep at a decent hour. Making sure that there's no electronics on or anything like that that's going to distract you or reduce the quality of your sleep, and then getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I extended a little bit, but there's like 5 different steps in there, right? So each one of those steps is extremely important to achieving your goal. Each one of those steps are very specific. So when you have an overall outcome that you want to achieve, just like any business plan, just like anything you would do in your life, it is important to understand the steps that need to happen in order to get to that point. There's a million different paths you can go to get to that point. But understanding the path in the direction that you want to go in, I would go for multiple on each one of those steps to make sure each outcome is as how you want it to be. Because in the universal realm of spirituality, the demonic and the divine, much like the jinn, wishes and outcomes may not come exactly as you want them to if you are not careful about how much control you have over the direction that you're going. Exactly, Brent. I completely agree with that. Anyway, everyone, thank you very much for being here. I greatly appreciate everyone that has been here. It's been a slightly different episode, but cover some topics I really want to talk about. Talking about that infernal motivation. The infernal want you to succeed, but you have to understand your responsibility inside of that success. We are left-hand path because we want to take responsibility and accountability for our successes as well as our failures. Be proud of the things that you do and try to figure out what it is that you can do better for the things that you haven't achieved yet. And as long as you don't stop trying, you have not failed. You have merely learned a lesson that it needs to be done differently. With that being said, is Anubis infernal? I would say so. Most definitely. Like, I believe Anubis and Set. Okay, so I think OBS dropped for a second there for some reason, but I think we're connected. Anyway, yes, I would say I believe Anubis and Set would both be considered infernals. I'm not 100% versed on the Egyptian pantheon, but from my understanding, yes, I would say that both Anubis and Set would be considered infernal entities. Right? That being said, thank you all very much for being here. This has been Satan and Coffee, the Sunday Black Mass. And again, hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Paimon, Hail Baphomet. Hail thyself. We reject the Trinity. We reject the baptism of John, and we reject the baptism of the Spirit. That being said, you all have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week. Hail thy fucking self. See you later.